Lyra's breathing was slow and shallow. Her body lay half buried beneath the burning sands of the planet Iridia. The harsh winds blew grains of sand over her, gradually covering her small form. Her once shimmering violet skin was now pale and cracked from dehydration, and her silver hair tangled and dirty. It had been days since she had eaten or drunk anything, and the planet's relentless sun showed no mercy. The betrayal still haunted her. She remembered clearly how her friends had turned their backs on her. "You have betrayed us," they accused. She had pleaded, trying to explain the misunderstanding, but no one listened. Her pleas fell on deaf ears. Abandoned, they had left her alone in the desert. Sure she would not survive the night. Lyra tried to move her fingers, but they barely responded. Her strength was gone. She closed her eyes and felt tears escape, quickly drying against her burning cheeks. She could hear her heartbeat slowing, feeling weaker with every passing minute. She was alone, forgotten, and would soon vanish forever beneath the sands. Nearby, Daniel scanned the harsh landscape carefully. He was a human explorer, stranded, with his small team on Iridia after their ship crashed during a routine survey mission. Supplies were low, and every day was a struggle to find water and food. Daniel moved cautiously, knowing danger lurked in every shadow of this hostile planet. His dark hair was messy, his skin burnt and rough from constant exposure to the sun. But his determined blue eyes never wavered. He carried a small device in his hand, scanning for any life signs or usable resources. Suddenly, the device beeped softly, signaling something unusual beneath the sand ahead. Curious and cautious, Daniel approached the spot, bending down to investigate Dot as he brushed away the sand, his eyes widened in shock. There was a body beneath Alien, fragile, barely breathing. Daniel felt a pang of sadness as he saw her weak and vulnerable state. Without hesitation, he gently lifted her from the sand, amazed at how light she felt. Her skin was cold despite the scorching heat. "Hang in there," he whispered, speaking softly, although he knew she might not hear him. He quickly removed his cloak and wrapped her in it, protecting her from the fierce sun. With careful steps, Daniel hurried back to his shelter, a small, hidden cave that provided some protection from the relentless climate. Inside the cave, he laid Lyra gently on his makeshift bed, made from soft moss and blankets salvaged from his crashed ship. Daniel quickly fetched a container of precious water and dripped a small amount onto her cracked lips. At first, nothing happened, but slowly, very slowly, her mouth moved slightly. Encouraged, Daniel carefully fed her more water, drop by drop. Hoping to revive her strength, Daniel watched her closely as hours passed, refusing to leave her side. He talked to her softly, even though he knew she might not understand his words. "You're safe now," he reassured her, hoping she could somehow hear and draw strength from his voice. His heart ached seeing someone so young and delicate treated so cruelly. As the sun set, Daniel lit a small lamp, casting gentle shadows on the walls of the cave. He carefully checked Lyra's pulse, relieved that it was now steadier. He cleaned her wounds gently, applying a special healing cream he'd salvaged from the ship. Though she remained unconscious, he hoped she could sense she was no longer alone. That night, Daniel barely slept, constantly watching over Lyra. He wondered what had happened to her, why she had been abandoned so cruelly. The thought angered him, stirring something protective within his heart. Humans had many flaws, but leaving someone helpless was never something Daniel could understand or accept. By morning, Lyra's breathing had improved slightly. Daniel felt a small hope growing inside him. He knew it would take time, but he was determined to keep her alive. For him, it was more than just survival. It was a matter of compassion and humanity. Outside, the planet continued its harsh cycle of heat and wind, but inside the cave, something gentle and kind had begun. Daniel vowed silently to himself that Lyra would not be abandoned again. He would stay by her side until she was strong enough to open her eyes and live once more. Lyra slowly opened her eyes. Her vision was blurry at first, and the dim light in the cave confused her. She felt weak, but she knew immediately that she was no longer in the desert. She tried to move, but a gentle hand touched her shoulder softly, urging her to remain still. "Easy now," a calm voice said. Lyra turned her head slightly and saw a human sitting beside her. His expression was kind, and his blue eyes were gentle. "You've been through a lot. Rest for now." Lyra tried to speak, but only a faint sound came. Out. Daniel quickly offered her more water, gently helping her drink. She felt immediate relief as the cool liquid soothed her dry throat. Gradually, her thoughts became clearer. Who? Are you? She finally managed to whisper, her voice weak but understandable. "My name is Daniel," he said softly. "I found you in the desert. You were in bad shape. You saved me." Lyra asked, her eyes wide with surprise and confusion. She could barely understand why a human would help her, especially after being abandoned by her own people. Daniel nodded. "Yes, I couldn't leave you out there. It was the right thing to do." Lyra studied him carefully. Humans were known to her kind as mysterious and unpredictable beings, but this one seemed different. Daniel's actions confused her, yet filled her heart with warmth. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. Days passed, and slowly Lyra regained her strength. Daniel cared for her, bringing her food, water, and medicine. They began to speak more openly, sharing small stories about their worlds and cultures. Lyra discovered that humans weren't as harsh or dangerous as her people had described. "Why did they abandon you?" Daniel asked carefully one evening. They sat near the entrance of the cave, watching the sky darken as the stars slowly appeared. Lyra sighed deeply, her eyes filled with sadness. "I was falsely accused. They believed I had betrayed our people by giving away secrets to enemies. I tried to tell them it was not true, but they didn't believe me. They left me to die as punishment." Daniel's face grew serious, clearly troubled by what he heard. "That's terrible. I'm sorry you had to go through that." Lyra smiled weakly. "Thank you. But why help me? We are strangers." Daniel paused thoughtfully before answering. "Because it's not right to abandon someone who needs help, no matter who they are. On Earth, many stories teach us kindness. Helping others is part of who we are, even if some of us forget that sometimes." Lyra listened quietly, fascinated. She found Daniel's words comforting, unlike anything she had heard from her own people. She began to trust him more deeply, feeling that she could rely on his kindness. As Lyra grew stronger, Daniel introduced her to his daily routine, showing her how he searched for resources and maintained their small shelter. She admired his resourcefulness and dedication. Her own survival now depended on him, and she found herself increasingly grateful for his presence. One afternoon, as they gathered supplies, Daniel showed Lyra a small device he had repaired. "It's a communication device," he explained. "With it, we might call for help if we can get it fully operational." Lyra felt a mix of hope and worry. "What if my people come back?" she asked, fear evident in her voice. Daniel gently touched her hand reassuringly. "We'll face that together," he promised. "I won't let them harm you again." His words filled her with comfort, easing her worries. They returned to the cave, working side by side to improve their chances of rescue. Daniel patiently showed Lyra how the device worked, explaining each step simply and clearly. As they worked, Lyra realized how deeply connected she felt to Daniel. He wasn't just a rescuer anymore. He had become a trusted friend and companion. His consistent kindness and understanding had changed everything for her. The loneliness and betrayal she'd felt before faded slowly away, replaced by warmth and trust. That night, as they ate a small meal, Lyra spoke softly. "Daniel, thank you for saving my life, for not leaving me alone." Daniel smiled warmly, his eyes sincere. "You don't have to thank me, Lyra. I'm glad you're here. I promise you'll never be alone again." Lyra felt tears of gratitude form in her eyes. She looked at the gentle human beside her, finally believing that she had found a true ally. Together, they watched the stars, knowing that their bond had grown stronger through shared hardship, kindness, and trust. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra grew healthier and stronger. She now felt confident enough to venture outside with Daniel to explore their surroundings. Each journey brought them closer, helping them understand each other better. Daniel taught Lyra about Earth's history, describing the oceans, forests, and mountains of his home planet. In return, Lyra shared stories of her own world, where cities floated above endless seas. One morning, they set out earlier than usual. Daniel carried the communication device, hopeful it might pick up signals from other crashed ships or rescue vessels. Lyra walked beside him, quietly observing everything around them. The desert was harsh but strangely beautiful under the rising sun. Painted in shades of orange and red, they climbed to the top of a large dune to get a clear signal. Daniel carefully adjusted the device, his brow furrowed in concentration. Lyra watched him, feeling admiration for his patience and determination. Her heart beat faster each time Daniel showed strength and calmness in difficult moments. After several tries, the device suddenly beeped loudly. Daniel's face lit up with excitement. "We have a signal," he said happily. Lyra smiled, feeling hopeful yet nervous. "Do you think someone heard us?" Lyra asked, her voice shaking slightly. Daniel nodded. "It's weak, but someone might have picked it up. We'll keep sending signals each day. Eventually, someone will find us." On their way back, Lyra stumbled upon a small metallic object partially buried in the sand. Curious, she picked it up, studying it carefully. It was a piece of equipment from her people's ships. Her heart skipped a beat, realizing what this meant. "What's wrong?" Daniel asked, noticing her sudden stillness. Lyra showed him the small device, her voice quiet with worry. "They were here recently. They might come back." Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly, understanding the danger clearly. He gently took her hand, squeezing it softly to comfort her. "Don't worry, Lyra. We'll be ready if they come. I promise." Back in their shelter, Daniel worked quickly to secure the cave further, building stronger barriers and hidden compartments for their supplies. Lyra helped silently, her anxiety growing with every passing minute. She feared confronting her former friends again, unsure if she could face the pain and anger. That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. She sat near the entrance, staring out at the dark, star-filled sky. Her mind raced with worries and questions. Daniel noticed her quietness and sat down beside her, saying nothing at first, giving her space to speak. "Why do you help me so much?" Lyra finally asked, breaking the silence. "I'm not your responsibility." Daniel smiled softly. "Lyra, kindness isn't about responsibility. It's about seeing someone who needs help and giving it. My people have many faults, but we believe in caring for others. It's how we survive." Lyra nodded slowly, thinking about his words carefully. "I don't think my people see kindness the same way," she whispered sadly. "Maybe not," Daniel said gently, "but you do. I've seen it in you, Lyra. Your heart is kind and brave, even after everything you've been through." His words comforted Lyra, chasing away some of her fears. She rested her head gently on his shoulder, feeling safe and protected. Suddenly, the communication device beeped urgently from inside the cave. Daniel quickly stood up, pulling Lyra with him. He grabbed the device, examining the readings carefully. "It's a clear signal," Daniel said, excitement filling his voice. Federation ship picked up our distress call. They'll reach us in a few days." Relief filled Lyra's heart, but her worry returned quickly. "What about my people? They could still return before the Federation arrives." Daniel faced her confidently, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. "We'll be prepared. Together, we can face whatever comes." Over the next days, Daniel and Lyra worked tirelessly, gathering resources, strengthening their shelter, and planning escape routes in case of danger. Each moment of work brought them even closer together, their bond growing stronger. One afternoon, as they rested briefly, Daniel looked deeply into Lyra's eyes. "I want you to know something," he said softly. "No matter what happens, I will protect you. You won't be alone again." Lyra felt tears well in her eyes, moved by his sincerity. She took his hand gently, feeling warmth and security in his presence. "Thank you, Daniel," she whispered Dot as evening fell. They sat quietly by their fire, waiting for rescue and preparing for possible confrontation. Uncertainty hung heavy around them, but hope remained stronger. Together, Daniel and Lyra found strength in each other, ready to face the challenges ahead. Daniel and Lyra woke early the next morning. The sun had barely begun to rise, casting a soft golden glow over the desert sands. They shared a quiet meal, each lost in their own thoughts. They knew that the next few days would be crucial. Lyra's anxiety grew as she thought about facing her people again. Daniel's calm presence, however, provided her with comfort and strength. After eating, Daniel checked their supplies carefully, ensuring they had enough food, water, and medicine. Lyra watched him closely, feeling thankful for his careful planning. He moved with purpose and confidence, making her feel secure. Outside the cave, the sky was clear, and the desert stretched endlessly before them. Lyra's eyes scanned the horizon, carefully looking for signs of danger or rescue. Daniel stood quietly beside her, holding the communication device and checking for updates. Every beat from the device made Lyra's heart race with hope and worry. Suddenly, a distant sound interrupted their silence. Lyra's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the noise a ship was approaching. Her eyes widened in fear. "They found us," she whispered nervously. Daniel quickly grabbed her hand, squeezing gently. "Stay calm," he said firmly, his voice filled with confidence. "We'll face them together." A sleek, familiar ship soon appeared above the dunes, descending slowly towards their location. It landed carefully, sending sand flying in every direction. Lyra's breathing quickened as the door opened, revealing several figures stepping out. Her heart sank when she saw familiar faces, people who had once been her friends and allies. Now they looked at her coldly, their eyes filled with distrust and anger. A tall figure stepped forward, his voice stern. "Lyra, you shouldn't have survived. You must come with us now." Lyra tried to steady herself, gathering courage to face them. "I did nothing wrong," she said firmly. "I was falsely accused." The figure sneered, shaking his head. "Your words mean nothing now. Come quietly, or we'll use force." Daniel stepped in front of Lyra protectively, his posture strong and defiant. "She isn't going anywhere," he declared boldly. "You abandoned her once. She doesn't belong with you anymore." The figure laughed harshly, looking at Daniel with contempt. "You, a human, think you can stop us? Step aside or suffer the consequences." Daniel didn't move. His determination was clear and unshakable. "I will not let you hurt her again." A tense silence filled the air. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest, fear and hope battling inside her. She was terrified, yet Daniel's bravery gave her courage. She stepped forward, placing her hand gently on Daniel's shoulder. "I won't go back," she said, her voice calm and firm. "I choose to stay here with Daniel." Anger flashed in the eyes of her former friend. He raised his hand, signaling his companions to move forward. Daniel reacted swiftly, pulling Lyra behind him and grabbing a nearby tool as a weapon. Brief but fierce fight erupted. Daniel moved with skill, surprising their attackers with his determination and strength. Lyra stayed close, assisting him by throwing sand into the eyes of those who got too close, and kicking fiercely to defend herself. After several intense moments, their attackers hesitated, unsure if capturing Lyra was worth the fight. Their leader glared angrily at Daniel, breathing heavily. "You'll regret this," he warned. "She isn't worth your effort." "You're wrong," Daniel said firmly, his voice steady. "She's worth everything." Realizing their defeat, The attackers retreated back into their ship, disappearing swiftly into the sky. Daniel dropped his makeshift weapon and turned to Lyra. Breathing heavily but smiling in relief, Lyra threw her arms around Daniel, holding him tightly. Tears of relief filled her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered softly. "You saved me again." Daniel gently returned her embrace, holding her close. "I promised I wouldn't let anything happen to you," he said gently. "And I always keep my promises." Later, that day, as they rested together, Lyra felt safe and truly happy for the first time in many days. Daniel's kindness and courage had changed everything. She realized that she had found someone she could truly trust, someone who believed in. Her completely dot as evening fell, they watched the sky together, holding hands quietly. Their rescue would soon arrive, but Lyra already knew where she belonged. With Daniel by her side, she felt complete and protected. They had faced danger and betrayal together, growing stronger each time. Daniel looked at Lyra softly, his voice gentle. "We made it through, and we did it together." Lyra smiled warmly, feeling deep happiness fill her heart. "Together," she repeated softly, certain that whatever the future held, she and Daniel would face it side by side. The following morning, Daniel and Lyra woke to the sound of gentle winds whispering outside their cave. Sunlight filtered through the entrance, bathing their small refuge in a warm, comforting glow. They sat quietly together, sharing simple food and drinking water, each feeling calm after their recent struggle. As they finished eating, the communication device beeped clearly. Daniel quickly picked it up and read the message aloud. "Federation rescue ship inbound. Arrival within the hour." Lyra's heart raced with excitement and nervousness. Finally, rescue was coming, but her mind filled with questions. How would the Federation treat her, given her people's accusations? Would they believe her innocence? Daniel noticed her worry and gently took her hand, squeezing it softly. "Everything will be all right," he assured her calmly. "We'll explain everything. They'll understand." Together, they prepared to meet the rescue ship. They packed their few belongings carefully, taking only what they truly needed. Daniel made sure to keep the small communication device safe, knowing it would help prove their story. As they stepped outside, Lyra looked around the desert, the sands now familiar yet still intimidating. She breathed deeply, feeling both relief and sadness to leave the place that had tested her strength, but also given her Daniel soon. A large Federation ship appeared, hovering gently above the dunes. Its engines hummed softly as it landed, creating small clouds of sand that danced briefly in the air. The door opened smoothly, and two Federation officers stepped out, dressed neatly in simple uniforms. "Are you Daniel and Lyra?" One officer asked kindly, her voice calm and reassuring. "Yes, we are," Daniel replied confidently, stepping forward with Lyra by his side. "We received your signal," the officer continued warmly. "You're safe now. Please come aboard." Inside the ship, the atmosphere felt peaceful and welcoming. Officers listened attentively as Daniel and Lyra explained everything that had happened. They shared their story openly, describing the betrayal, their survival, and the recent attack by Lyra's people. The officers exchanged thoughtful glances, then nodded understandingly. "We'll make sure your story is heard," one said gently. "You'll be protected from now on." Lyra felt overwhelming gratitude. Tears formed in her eyes as she thanked the officers sincerely. Daniel gently placed a comforting arm around her, offering his silent support. She felt safe again, knowing he was by her side. The ship swiftly left the desert planet behind, heading towards a nearby Federation space station. On board, Daniel and Lyra were given comfortable quarters and medical care. They rested peacefully, finally free from constant danger and fear. During their journey, they spent many hours together, talking quietly and enjoying simple moments. Lyra felt her bond with Daniel deepen even more. His kindness, bravery, and constant support had changed her life completely. She could not imagine facing the future without him. At the Federation station, officials welcomed them warmly, eager to learn more details. Lyra's story was carefully documented, and soon it became clear that her people's accusations were false. Federation authorities promised to ensure Lyra's safety and clear her name fully. One evening, Daniel and Lyra stood quietly in front of a large window, gazing at the stars outside. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before them, filled with countless possibilities. Lyra felt excitement and hope for the first time in many weeks. "What do you want to do now?" Daniel asked softly, looking deeply into her eyes. Lyra thought carefully, then smiled gently. "I want to stay with you. Whatever we do, I want us to do it together." Daniel's face brightened warmly, his eyes full of genuine joy. "I'd like that too, Lyra. Together." They stood close, watching the stars quietly, knowing their journey was only just beginning. They had overcome betrayal, abandonment, and fear, emerging stronger and more united. Together, they could face anything the universe had in store for them. Lyra rested her head gently against Daniel's shoulder, feeling complete peace. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would handle them side by side, bound by trust, kindness, and shared strength. "Thank you," Lyra whispered softly, her voice filled with gratitude and affection. "For what?" Daniel asked gently, holding her close. "For being here," Lyra replied quietly. "For never leaving me." Daniel smiled softly, his voice full of sincerity. "I never will, Lyra." And in that quiet moment, watching stars twinkle in the endless darkness, both knew they had found something truly special. A bond forged by adversity, strengthened by kindness, and sealed by trust, something they would cherish forever. At the Federation space station, life became calm and secure for Daniel and Lyra. They spent their days helping officials understand Lyra's people better, sharing details about her culture, traditions, and technology. Everyone listened carefully, valuing their insights and experiences. Daniel enjoyed teaching Federation technicians about survival skills he had learned on Iridia. His practical knowledge earned him respect, and many admired his calm and resourceful nature. Lyra felt proud as she watched Daniel share his wisdom, feeling grateful he had been the one to save her. One afternoon, Federation leaders invited Daniel and Lyra to a meeting. They entered a spacious, brightly lit room filled with friendly faces eager to speak with them. An elderly Federation ambassador warmly welcomed them, gesturing for them to sit. "We have news regarding your situation," the ambassador began, gently, smiling kindly at Lyra. "Your story has been reviewed, and we've officially cleared your name. You're free and safe to start your life anew." Lyra felt relief and happiness fill her heart. Tears of gratitude filled her eyes, and Daniel gently squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "I never thought this day would come." The ambassador nodded kindly. "We would also like to offer you both positions within the Federation, if you wish. You've proven yourselves brave, resourceful, and compassionate. Your experiences could help us build stronger relationships between humans and Lyra's people." Daniel and Lyra exchanged thoughtful glances, each considering this new opportunity carefully. Finally, Daniel spoke confidently. "We appreciate your offer very much. It will be an honor to help." Lyra nodded in agreement, her heart feeling lighter and happier. "We would love to be part of building peace and understanding." In the weeks that followed, Daniel and Lyra settled into their new roles. They worked closely together, using their combined experiences to bridge gaps between humans and Lyra's people. Their bond continued to grow stronger, built on mutual respect and deep affection. One evening, after a long day of meetings and discussions, Daniel suggested a quiet walk around the station. They wandered slowly through peaceful corridors, enjoying each other's company. Finally, they stopped by a large window overlooking the vastness of space. Daniel gently took Lyra's hands, looking deeply into her eyes. "Lyra," he began softly, his voice full of warmth, "I never imagined meeting someone like you when our ship crashed. But now I can't imagine my life without you." Lyra smiled warmly, her eyes shining with happiness. "I feel the same, Daniel." "You showed me." kindness, courage, and love. You've changed my life forever. Taking a deep breath, Daniel continued gently. Would you stay with me always, Lyra? Will you be my partner, not just in our work, but in life? Lyra's heart raced with joy, her voice shaking slightly as she replied, Yes, Daniel. I will gladly be your partner in everything. Daniel's face lit up with joy as he embraced her warmly. They stood quietly for a moment, holding each other close, knowing their lives were forever changed. The news of their partnership brought happiness to their Federation colleagues. Friends and co-workers celebrated their union, seeing it as a beautiful symbol of unity and harmony. Daniel and Lyra were deeply touched by everyone's kindness and support. Soon after, they began planning a small ceremony to officially mark their union. Friends and colleagues eagerly helped with preparations, decorating a quiet room aboard the station with simple, beautiful decorations. On the day of the ceremony, Lyra and Daniel stood together, holding hands, surrounded by friends. An elderly Federation leader conducted the ceremony, speaking warmly about their journey, their bravery, and their deep bond. You both have shown us what strength, compassion, and love truly mean, she said gently as the ceremony ended. Daniel and Lyra exchanged meaningful glances, their eyes filled with love and happiness. They knew they had overcome incredible challenges together, emerging stronger and closer than ever before. In the days following the ceremony, Daniel and Lyra began their new lives with renewed purpose. They continued to work tirelessly, building bridges of understanding between different peoples. Their experiences became stories told throughout the Federation, inspiring others to act with kindness, courage, and compassion. Every evening, Daniel and Lyra took quiet walks around the station, pausing by their favorite window to watch stars shine softly in the vast darkness. They often spoke quietly, reflecting on how far they had come and how much their lives had changed. One night, Lyra turned to Daniel with a gentle smile. I never knew what true happiness was until I met you, she whispered softly. Daniel smiled, warmly, gently holding her close. Neither did I, he replied gently. And now, together we'll keep sharing that happiness. In that quiet moment, looking at endless stars, both knew their journey was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a brighter future, always together. Life aboard the Federation station became peaceful and meaningful for Daniel and Lyra. Their bond deepened every day, built on trust, understanding, and love. Together, they worked tirelessly, encouraging unity and friendship between humans and Lyra's people. Their efforts began to bring noticeable changes, fostering harmony and respect among previously wary communities. One afternoon, Daniel and Lyra were invited to speak at a large gathering. Representatives from various worlds had come to discuss cooperation and peace. Daniel stood calmly, looking out at the diverse crowd before him. His voice was steady as he began to speak, sharing his and Lyra's incredible journey. As he spoke, Daniel described their first meeting, his discovery of Lyra abandoned and left to die, and their struggle to survive together on the harsh desert planet. He talked about overcoming fear and prejudice, emphasizing the importance of compassion and understanding. Lyra then stepped forward, her presence gentle yet strong. She spoke about her betrayal, the pain of rejection, and the joy of finding kindness and acceptance with Daniel. She shared openly about learning to trust again and how their partnership had taught her the true meaning of friendship and love. The audience listened closely, deeply moved by their words. When the speech ended, applause filled the room, sincere and heartfelt. Daniel and Lyra looked at each other warmly, proud of how far they had come together. Days later, a surprising message arrived. Lyra's people had heard about their work and were requesting a meeting. Initially hesitant, Lyra felt comforted by Daniel's reassurance and encouragement. Together, they agreed to meet, seeing it as an opportunity to heal old wounds. The meeting took place aboard a neutral Federation ship, where Daniel and Lyra sat patiently, waiting for her former friends to arrive. As the door opened, Familiar faces entered cautiously. The atmosphere felt tense at first, each side uncertain about how the conversation would unfold. Lyra spoke first, her voice gentle but firm. "I'm glad you agreed to meet," she began calmly. "I hope we can leave past mistakes behind us and build something better." One representative stepped forward, looking at Lyra with regret. "We were wrong to abandon you," he admitted quietly. "Fear and misunderstanding guided our actions, but we now see the truth. We ask for your forgiveness." Lyra felt tears fill her eyes, moved by their honesty and courage. She nodded softly, her voice filled with kindness. "I forgive you. I believe we can learn from this and create something stronger and kinder." Daniel watched quietly, pride filling his heart. Lyra's strength, compassion, and wisdom had led them to this moment of healing and reconciliation. He admired her deeply, thankful that fate had brought them together. Following this meeting, relationships improved greatly. Lyra's people began working more openly with the Federation, inspired by Daniel and Lyra's example of unity and forgiveness. Each day brought new progress, helping build a future of peace and cooperation. Months passed, and Daniel and Lyra felt content with the changes they had helped create. One quiet evening, Daniel suggested they return briefly to Iridia, the desert planet where their journey had begun. Lyra agreed, feeling curious and emotional about revisiting the place that had tested their strength and bond. Upon arriving on Iridia, they found the cave where Daniel had first rescued Lyra. Memories flooded back as they stepped inside, each remembering the challenges they had faced together. They sat quietly, holding hands, reflecting on everything they had overcome. "Daniel," Lyra began softly, her voice gentle and sincere, "you found me when I was abandoned and lost. You gave me hope and strength. Without you, I wouldn't be here today." Daniel smiled warmly, squeezing her hand gently. "Lyra, meeting you changed my life too. Your bravery, kindness, and love have made me a better person. I'm forever grateful we found each other." As night fell, stars filled the sky, sparkling brilliantly overhead. They stepped outside, looking up at the beautiful, endless expanse above them. Lyra rested her head on Daniel's shoulder, feeling completely at peace. "We've been through so much," Daniel whispered softly, "but I believe our greatest adventures are still ahead." Lyra smiled gently, feeling deeply happy. "I look forward to every moment of those adventures, as long as we're together." Under the endless starlit sky, Daniel and Lyra stood quietly, their hearts connected deeply by shared experiences, trust, and enduring love. They knew challenges would come again, but they faced the future with hope, courage, and certainty that together they could overcome anything. Hand in hand, they left the cave behind, walking into the desert night towards their waiting ship. Their past had taught them strength and resilience, their present filled with purpose, and their future promised happiness and endless possibilities. Together, Daniel and Lyra knew they had truly found a bond stronger than any they had ever imagined.